My name is Rachel Stein. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I'm an O4U Business Admissions Director and also am a consultant at Boston Consulting Group. Really excited to host this panel today on the topic of dress for success, wearing your authentic self to work. We have four awesome panelists that are going to talk a little bit about their personal style and their experiences dressing in the workplace and with professionality and stuff like that. So I'll pass it off. I'd love to start with Maria, just introducing yourself and giving kind of a high level description of your background.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maria McQuaid. I use she, her pronouns, and I am incoming at Macy's with their merchandising department. So I went to Christopher Newport University, which is a very tiny school in Southern Virginia. And I actually went to O4U Marketing in 2019, so last year, and that's actually how I got my Macy's job. So I have so much love for O4U, and I did a big internship my junior year summer to kind of get myself prepared to go off into the working world and stuff with some work experience behind me. But yeah.
Awesome. MJ, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm MJ. I use he, him, or she, her pronouns. I work in corporate ratings at Fitch Ratings. And normally I cover like oil and gas and chemicals names, but lately I've been switching more to data and like internal transformation work, where I help like the executive board decide if they're allocating resources properly to the different divisions. And I've been, I think I started with O4U back in like 2016, which is, wow, 4 years ago, as a student. Then I've come back as a sponsor and volunteer. And most recently, I helped build the Pathable site.
Which was a huge lift, so thank you for doing that. Kyle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle. I use he, him pronouns. I am currently an associate consultant at Bain & Company in their Boston office. I've been there for about 2 years now. No particular focus or industry specialty. I like to see everything. And I graduated from Yale in 2018. I went to O4U in 2017, was similarly a huge fan of it and made a lot of really lasting relationships from that experience. So I'm excited to be back.
Awesome. And then last but not least, we have Britt, if you could quickly introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Britt. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I currently work at Wells Fargo in the sales and trading division, where I trade mortgages. So just think about the crisis in 2008, that's what I trade. And I have been doing that for the last 3 years right after I graduated. So I graduated in 2017 from the University of Pennsylvania, where I was also a lacrosse athlete. So there's a lot going on there. And O4U has been a large supportive community for me ever since I actually transferred from UVA to Penn. And that's when I first got involved. And now I've been a mentor before. I've been on panels. I've volunteered, and I'm just happy to be here today to help anyone who's got any questions.
Amazing. So thanks so much. Well, if we can flip to the next slide, I think we have 3 big topics we're going to talk through today with this panel. The first is dressing professionally in your industry, what that means to each of these panelists. Then managing expectations and pushing boundaries within your field. And then last but not least, just tactically, where you shop for clothing that makes you feel good and kind of how things have changed for you over the last few years. So starting off, I think my first question I'd love all the panelists to answer is, could you each just tell us a little bit more about your personal style, what dressing professionally means to you in the context of your industry and your firm? Maybe we'll start again with Maria, if that works.
Yeah, sure. So you said first off, like my personal style and stuff like that. Yeah, so I would say generally I used to actually dress really, really preppy, and then I like cut all of my hair off, and then slowly all of that, and then slowly came out and all of those things as one does. And I slowly like kind of transitioned to being a lot more edgy, but also kind of playing a lot with style. I like to think of style as also like a spectrum. Like I think that it is so much part of the thing that's so much fun about being queer is being able to one day put on like a really nice button down the next day, like wear a baseball cap and like feel like very good about yourself no matter what. And then I think in my industry, so at Macy's, obviously things are like more virtual right now, but generally you're allowed to like wear jeans and like a nice top. It's a lot more casual of an industry, and you're like encouraged to like express yourself within like within some restrictions, I guess, but much more casual than some other fields, I would say. Was that all your questions?
Yeah, no, that works. That's helpful.
Okay.
MJ, do you want to talk through kind of what your style is and kind of what professionality means to you and in the context of your firm?
Sure. So my style is, well, so I go from 0 to 100. It's either 0 or 100. And 0 is where I don't try and I go to work in like Lulu slacks, like the ABC ones that have the nice stretch and that you can actually do yoga in. And 100 is this sort of like, you know, flowy, feminine, like I'm a bit of a club kid. So my if I go like all out at work, I am known to like wear an 8-foot brim hat, but that's only if I'm going to dinner after. But the thing is, like with credit and credit ratings, it's like a very conservative culture because that's, you know, it mirrors what credit is because credit is all about managing downside risk. And so like with my kind of very adventurous sense of personal style, it becomes a little bit difficult to be completely out there while at the same time like making sure everyone is as comfortable. And the way I do that is my boss is very supportive and he's always behind me and he's like, you know, you can do whatever as long as you do well, right? Which is, I think, an interesting sort of trade-off because in an ideal world, I think queer people would be able to just be themselves and still be mediocre, right? But unfortunately, because we're still building up a presence in this industry, we seem to be subject to some more expectations about performance, which need to be fulfilled before we earn the privilege of being authentic. And that's still emblematic of the road ahead that we have.
That's a very interesting perspective. So thank you for sharing that. Kyle, do you want to walk through kind of what your style looks like and how you navigate professionalism in your industry?
Sure. So I think my office is relatively conventional business casual. I think at least we are trending towards more casual increasingly. Like there was a huge announcement of we can wear jeans any day instead of just Jean Fridays. And it's like, was a huge deal. So within that realm, I think if I was to use the 0 to 100 that MJ gave, I'm probably a 0 to like 25 range person on my day-to-day. But the things that I really enjoy playing around with are, I think, small for maybe some people, big for me, I don't know. But for example, like when I first joined, had like this eyebrow cut like right here and just like loved it. It was just so fun, had a great time. Definitely the only person in my large office that had anything like that I've ever seen. Similarly, like earrings, there's not another guy that has like earrings in my office. So that was another thing that was like sort of strange, but things that I've enjoyed playing around with, whether that's like these diamond studs that I have or just like really long things that I'll put in sometimes. And also just like tattoos are something that I like to play around with as well. So as much as I can, I just will like show skin as much as possible just to like show them off in the office. Again, sort of because it's like, I sort of enjoy making people sort of make that second glance at me. I know that's a privilege that I have, that I can sort of press against those boundaries and try to make people like have that second glance. But it's something that I both enjoy, but also find as a broader sort of message about sort of, we want to challenge these boundaries. And that's a position that I'm in, that I can do that within my corporate space. But yeah, a similar vein of, I will sometimes just feel super conservative and wear my typical business casual to the office. Other times I will not. I'd also say it really depends in consulting and with your clients and sort of the dress codes of clients, which can vary widely. Like we currently work with, on my current case, a COO that wears Nike t-shirts every single day in every single meeting. And then the CFO that we work with wears a full suit every single meeting. And so we have to like check our schedules on the day and sort of see like, who are we meeting with today? Are we meeting with Barry or are we meeting this other guy? Like, who is it? And so I'd say it also slightly depends on in specifically consulting your clients.
Great. Yeah, and I think navigating those different modes of professionalism, going from clients to offices, is also an interesting angle and something that a lot of consultants face. So super helpful. Britt, do you want to walk through kind of what your style looks like on a day-to-day basis and how you navigate professionalism?
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm more on MJ's line in the sense of in the business that I'm in sales and trading, it's not necessarily what I do every day is like Wolf of Wall Street. But if, you were going to think of a movie and the type of individuals I sit with, those are the individuals, right? The desk that I sit on is 10 other guys. It's all men, they're all white, and all of them are 30 plus with kids. So how does a Black butch lesbian walk in and sort of gain the respect, right, of these individuals while not also losing myself at the same time? And I think that has been a boundary that I've had to learn how to become comfortable with. And I think a lot of my athletic background has given me the confidence to deal with that. Whereas from day one, I kind of just walked in, but I walked in the sense of aligning with their rules. And I think that's what has allowed me now to push more boundaries in the sense of, okay, I know I'm going to dress more masculine, but then I'm going to follow their rules in that sense. So, belt matches the shoes, I always usually wear like a navy suit or a black suit, usually looks very fresh. Now, like normally I would just wear like normal socks. Now I wear like more patterned socks. Now, like my watches might be a little bit more crazy, right? Now, like my shirts might not all just be white and just all be blue. Like I'll switch up the colors. And for me, I personally I felt like I had to gain their respect in understanding the fundamentals of the product to then be able to push my dressing boundary. And I think that's sort of a boundary I put on myself. I don't 100% believe that they all felt that way. I think I kind of consumed that. And looking back, I think that's unfortunate because now when I sit with these guys and I bring my girlfriend around their families, they introduce her as, hey, this is Elizabeth, Britt's girlfriend. There's no shying away from who I am or who I love and how I want to be. But I do think when I first found out I was going to be on that desk and these are the people I was going to report to and who was going to determine my bonus at the end of the year, that can be scary, right? And I think it's okay to like acknowledge that and sort of find your way to be comfortable, and not to feel pressure to do it on day one if it's not ready for you. And so now, like before when I was an analyst, I told myself, okay, I'm going to be business casual because I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, for everyone who doesn't know that. So it's business casual. It's never business professional. It's way too hot. And so for me, like business casual, I was like, okay, on Fridays when I could wear jeans if I wanted to, or I could just wear a polo, I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to go above and beyond until I get promoted, to sort of prove to them, like, I deserve to be here. I take myself seriously. And that's why I dress this way, because I do take this seriously. And then finally, like once I got promoted, everyone was like, dude, like you're one of us. Like, why are you still wearing like stuffy clothes every single day? Relax. And that's like when I started to notice that I can actually fully bring myself to work. But for everyone, right, it doesn't happen day one. And some people might not have the confidence day one to do that. And I think everyone sort of has to find their own process in doing that and finding that organic help along the way. And to what MJ's saying of having a manager that supports you, that was huge for me. And so the guy that I trade with completely supports me. And if anyone says anything that makes me feel uncomfortable, he straight up turns around and says, dude, what the fuck, knock it off. And right, like if you can have that type of support system, I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's a super helpful perspective. I think for a lot of folks, having a more senior champion who's willing to support you makes a huge difference in your willingness to show up authentically. We did get a question through the chat about the more permanent aspects of style. So things like piercings and tattoos. Maybe Kyle, you spoke about this a little bit, but how did you navigate starting to show your tattoos and piercings a little bit more? Is it something you did right off the bat or something that happened for you over time?
Yeah, it was definitely something that happened over time. I think to Britt's point, it was really about me sort of building the confidence to feel comfortable to do that. When I first started, I wore button down full long sleeves and like showed nothing at all. But then gradually it was like, oh, if I'm walking outside and I got a little hot, I'll roll my sleeves up and like then that will show. Into like now where I'll just like wear just t-shirts or something to the office and just show everything, whatever. I will say that I don't do that necessarily with clients. I think it's
Hey,
not
Kyle,
so
your
much-
audio is cutting out a little bit, sounds like.
Oh, sorry.
That's a little better.
Okay.
It came back.
Just yell at me if it gets bad again. So it also depends on the clients. I don't wear to clients as much. Is it so bad?
It got better for a second.
Okay.
Okay. I think I'll flag to you if it goes off again, but it seems like it's better.
All right. So we try and error. So I think it depends for clients as well that I don't always just wear like t-shirts to the client, not because I'm not allowed to necessarily, but more so just because I worry potentially sometimes that informally I might not be allowed to just like, I might not get as many client experiences. And so that was sort of a growth in my confidence of similarly, I have had managers that are supportive of me and sort of expressing myself and how I wanted to. It was more so me feeling comfortable to do that in situations where you might not have someone that's necessarily the most open or used to that sort of thing. So when it came to piercing, similarly, like I would used to just take them out every single time I went to a client meeting. Now I don't care anymore. I just keep them in. That was more so about me building the confidence than it was about anything else. But I'd say that people generally, in my experience, have felt comfortable to show that, show piercing, show tattoos, more permanent aspects of expression. But it just requires sort of that confidence. And that just comes either with time or with supportive managers or a combination of both.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think this actually opens up a good question for maybe all of the other panelists to answer, which is kind of like, how has your style evolved over time? I think Kyle spoke to like getting more comfortable in the environment and being able to show off more of these piercings and tattoos or change style a little bit. But for all of you, how has your presentation changed over time? And, you know, if relevant, how has that been affected by your identity?
I go first?
Sure.
You can
So,
go first.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to? Okay, thank you. So I think my style has evolved hand in hand with one other person on my floor, and their name's Harold. They're a good friend of mine. They're non-binary, and Harold actually has a whole arm sleeve and whole leg sleeve, including the foot, with tattoos. They have a septum piercing, and I think the most important thing, in addition to knowing that I was going to be secure with my manager's support, was like us challenging each other to be more ourselves, like every Friday, right? We would do this thing on Fridays where we would both like pull a stunt. And it was so cute because we both have the shoes where the toe is like, the big toe is split off. And those are our favorite shoes. And we would wear those at the same time, and it was super cute. Mine had a 3-inch heel though, but I think like living in New York and like being exposed to culture in different like nightlife perspectives and divergent aesthetics has changed my personal style for the worse. I'm just a complete degenerate now, and I am able to embrace more of like the fun, edgy, performative pieces in my wardrobe and sort of like splice them in to like things that would like otherwise cover most of my body during work, because I have, in addition to like managerial support, like an ally in the office that we push each other and we tug each other in order to we'll be both more ourselves.
That's really helpful. Maria, do you want to share a response too?
Yeah, sure. So during my, really interesting, especially kind of, I love what you were saying, MJ, about like you and your friend. I think that helps so much to have someone else who is also, you know, queer and out in the workplace, because it makes you feel like you're a little bit less like alone in some ways, I guess. But so when I interned at Geico last summer, and this was at Geico's regional office in like the middle of Virginia, and it is very conservative. They always joke that the interns were always the best dressed, which was like true, because some people, they had a thing where if you donated some money, you were able to like wear jeans more often or whatever. But going into this office and like that entire summer, I definitely felt as though I had to conform to a lot of more like heteronormative standards. And I had like this really cute pair of like Doc Marten Oxfords that I had like just bought, and I didn't wear them all summer. And like they totally would have been fine to wear to work, but I was like, in my head, I told myself that I was like, Maria, you're gonna look too queer. Like you can't wear that. And, like I totally could have, but I think the environment that I was in definitely lent itself more to that. But I think as far as, and then also, with that, I realized that I wanted a more casual workplace. So like we all had to dress business casual. So then I realized that I wanted just generally a slightly different turn of like a career path instead. And so when I did that, I was also able to find like a more casual vibe of like being able to wear jeans and a nice top instead. As far as like things that are more permanent, it was nice to see like kind of my boss at my internship, like he had a bunch of tattoos, and like I would see other people with tattoos, and I kind of would say like, feel it out a little bit at first too. Like there's definitely, it can definitely be a little bit scary too, to be like, oh, I don't know if I can show my tattoos or whatever. And like, I also have tattoos, and but I think even before, there's like the, you know, the worry about like, do I need to establish myself first with like, before I can show my tattoos, like some of the other panelists were saying. And then I would also say just like kind of look around and like see what other people are wearing, and then also see like, do other people have tattoos that are showing, like, is it kind of like feel out to see like what seems to be okay or not, would be in my advice. And then as I kind of ventured into more of a fashion merchandising kind of role, I've been able to be a lot more like expressive, as well as just like getting older and like having your own fashion change. And it's also, I would say too, like it's totally okay if like your fashion and everything like changes over time. I just like went through a ton of my wardrobe before I moved to New York, and I was like looking at all these clothes, and I was like, that doesn't look like me anymore. And I was like, I used to love wearing that, but not anymore. And like, that's okay. So like continuing to find things and like push yourself, and like try and find a friend in like the workplace who will also push you, because that's just like makes it a little more fun to get up and get dressed for work.
And Britt, you started talking about this a little bit when you were talking about your personal style, but how have you felt like COVID-19 specifically, and like this move towards video calls for most of the day, has affected your style? I know you talked about it at a high level, but I know we have a few students interested in hearing about that.
Yeah, so I think for me, doing all these video calls, and it's like having people like see my home, right? In the sense of, right, I'm sitting in my living room now. I think I was actually, when it first started, I was very worried, right? Because I never really had anyone from work over, because I live right in a 2-bedroom condo, and all of them, right, have kids and sort of live outside of, in Charlotte, they call downtown uptown. I know it's confusing. But like, so they live like outside of like the city, if you want to call it a city. And so due to that fact, right, I'm going out to basically like a Greenwich every time I see them. So I'm not going to invite, you know, their 4 kids to come in my 2-bedroom condo and have dinner with me. And so I think I was very nervous about where was I going to put my desk and what was going to be around me. And then like, what was I going to wear and how was I going to be perceived? Like, so for example, I haven't gotten a haircut since, I want to say, January. So I was born and raised in New York City. I've been going to the same Dominican hair place since like day 1, and have not seen my family or been back to New York City since Christmas. So like, I haven't really gotten a haircut in a very long time. So I also too was like, wow, like they've really never seen my hair like having like 0 perm whatsoever, even though I normally wear it back. And so finding my style in that fact and sort of finding my voice was something that I struggled with. And it took, I think, sorry, that's my dog in the background. It took like a month or so, but I think, so like the first thing I did was I actually changed my glasses. So my glasses normally were just like black, like nomenclature, like very simple glasses. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to change it. I'm going to wear white glasses, just like clear glasses, and just put those on. And the first thing, one of the guys was like, wow, like those are cool. Where'd you get those? And I was like, okay, all right, I can push the boundaries here. And then I started wearing like more like snazzy button downs, and they're like, wow, those are cool. Where'd you get that? And so like then it started, right, like the conversation. I feel like I could be more myself. So then I actually moved my desk from this like second bedroom we have that was sort of like in the dark, and like the walls were very bland, to just like being in my living room where my dog might pass through, right? Or you might see my dog come through, stuff like that. And I think being myself that way has helped. And I've definitely transitioned more from having to be so stringent on myself about what I wear to being like, you know what, I love athleisure. So those like ABC pants MJ was talking about, splurged on those a couple of months ago. And now like, that's what I like. I'll wear those pants all day long. I'll wear my PJs most of the time. And like, so almost like a video call, I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Like I haven't put on a bra or like a normal shirt in like 3 days. So like, let me go get all that and I'll be right back. And so I think I've been able to come more into myself. And I actually like I know Maria was talking about the haircut, right? And I'm like, you know what? Like, why do I need to perm my hair? Like, I've never really loved my hair this way. So actually, I feel like I'm actually going to change it. I'm in the process of like figuring out like, how am I going to change my hair? And I think that's like an evolution. Like these are things I wouldn't have thought about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I definitely wasn't as butch as I was 15 years ago. And so like that evolution, I think it's okay to be like scared or uncomfortable. And I would say like the biggest thing about that is just take the time for yourself, right? Like reflect on it however you can. Talk to a friend or a colleague that you feel safe with, and doing that reflection, I don't know, at least for me, it's like giving me so much peace, and like I have so much less anxiety. So now when I go back to the office, like I'm gonna wear what I want to wear, and as long as like, right, it's gonna be in the guidelines, right? Like I like to wear nice shoes. I like to wear like, I mean, I'm obsessed with Cole Haan, nice shoes. So I mean, like for me, I'm still gonna wear that stuff. I'm just gonna like look real crisp the way I want to look real crisp, and I think that's really important.
That's awesome. That's great advice. We had a couple questions from students, so I wanted to touch on one. We had a student, Devyani, asked where you can find more affordable business clothing, especially going into more traditional or formal industries. So I'd love to kind of ask the panelists, you know, one, where do you shop generally for clothes? And two, like, do you have any specific recommendations for more affordable options for students who are kind of going into their first professional job?
I would go for it.
No, you work at Macy's. You definitely have a better answer.
So I would say, so I have a couple of things for I can't always speak on like men's clothing or like stuff like that, but like for where I shop mostly, I shop a lot at Loft, which like if you go in the sale gets real inexpensive. Like what I would recommend, literally what I did for my internship last summer is I figured out what kind of pants, because I'm very petite, like you can't tell right now obviously, but I am like 5'1", I am tiny. So it's, for me, for a very long time, it was very hard for me to just like find pants that fit. So I, like once you find the right pair of pants, buy them in multiple colors and just buy the same pair. And that is what I do. I found like the type of pants from Loft that fit me, and then I bought them in 3 colors and I wore them all summer, and I still wear them all the time. Because so basically if they have a lot of sales all the time, honestly. And so like I would buy those pants and they would be like nice pants, and then they would end up being like $20 because I would just wait for them to do like 50% off or something like that. I love to find stuff there, which Loft at first you're like, are you really going to be able to find like some things that are a little bit not so, yeah, but like I think for me, I would find that, and also Madewell, actually you just have to look. Honestly, I would say you have to look, and also like you can make anything queer if you want it to be queer. Like I would always say that like some things that I would wear, one of my friends would wear, and it would look totally different on both of us. And kind of just like find what fits with you, but I like them for sales. And then I also love Wild Fang is amazing. for like really cool button downs. I found some like really nice floral button downs. And also, if you don't do this already, like shop in the men's section, because I don't have like the boob problem with like the button downs, and like just like do it. It's so much, they're also more comfy. If you're gonna get a button down, like get a comfy one from the men's section. I love it. It's amazing. And just have fun with it, honestly. And like go to like TJ Maxx and stuff like that. And just sometimes you have to search, but I would say like find a friend that like will help push you with like style and stuff like that. And also just like hit you up with some good deals, because those are the best types of people.
Awesome. And Kyle, it looks like it sounds like you had something to say too earlier on this question.
Yeah, just small things to add. I loved those answers from Rhea. So just when I was sort of looking for affordable suits and stuff in college, I personally went to Top Man a lot, and went to their sales section, because like I think you can get like a basic suit from them for like $100, but if it's on sale, you can get it like slim fit, like actually fits quite well for me at least, because I liked the skinnier fits, for like as cheap as like $50 for like a full jacket and pants. I would also say I sometimes find that buying clothing that maybe doesn't fit the best in the store and then getting it slightly tailored can make it look like a lot more expensive clothing. So like I found a tailor in Boston that could do things for like $20 for me on like $30 pants and make them look like fantastic. So that's another small little tidbit. I would also say there's increasingly more opportunities to get tailored clothes that are becoming more and more affordable. I haven't looked at the prices recently, but like Bonobos and things, they also have sales where you can get clothing that's tailored specifically to your measurements. That's been nice for me, because similarly, like I don't always find the easiest, like best fitting things right in the store. And so if you can find one of those tailored sites on sale, those can be pretty affordable as well.
That's really helpful advice. And then for MJ and Britt, I would, if you all have answers to this, I would definitely take them. But I also had someone DM me a message about if there were any specific splurge items that you got just out of college that you felt made a really strong impact in your presentation.
So I'm more than happy to answer both. I think for me, a lot of I'm big on, I love clothing and I love like buying new ways to express myself, but I also don't super love the fashion industry and how it just continually creates, and then because of overproduction has to get rid of everything and even burn like past season's merchandise. So I buy a lot of my things secondhand and vintage and from consignment. And so my suits, when I was an intern, one of them I actually got on Grailed, which is this menswear consignment site. And depending on the brand and the style, and it's like people posting what's in their closets. So you might not always find what you want, especially if your body is, especially if they don't have things for your body like at that point in time. But I think definitely because it's secondhand, it's a little bit cheaper, and there's obviously no shame in buying like vintage or consignment or secondhand clothes, especially because, you know, sustainability is such like a big question for the supply chain and for companies. The other thing that I do is a lot of the clothes that I grow out of or I feel like aren't me anymore, I try to sort of re-gift them to some of my friends, just so my wardrobe has a little bit more longevity. All of my things are kind of splurges because I don't really buy any clothes that are necessary. I like a lot of useless things, but I will say the thing that that I've gotten the most wear out of in a professional setting is the ABC pants from Lulu, because if you're a dude or if you're not a dude, they're still really comfortable because the stretch is really soft and you can really sit in it all day. And sometimes I've had to go from the office to yoga and I don't have yoga pants. So I did yoga in those pants and they held up. They didn't rip at the crotch or anything. And I can drop into a split in them and they're fine. in terms of like a real splurge, I will say that I do own a hat. It is 8 feet wide. It does not fit in doorways. And it makes people look at me, and I love it.
Those are some
That's
very
awesome.
fun splurges. I love that. And then Britt would love to round out if you have any additional recommendations for kind of places you love shopping, particularly affordable options, and then also anything you bought early on in your career that you felt was very high impact in your presentation.
So I think there are two things I splurged on early in my career, like day one, where I was like, wow, I really have to eat like ramen for the next like 2 weeks until this next paycheck. When I first moved down to Charlotte, I had a lot of upfront costs, right? Because like I'm moving like 12-hour drive away from like everything I've ever known. And the two big things for me was I bought one, a really nice suit jacket that I knew would go with all the pants that I owned, so that just in case, if I ever went anywhere, I would fit in to sort of like the heteronormative, you know, investment banking, sales and trading vibe. So I wanted to make sure that I had one that fit. So like finding that tailor has been huge. I've had the same tailor down in Charlotte since day one. Her name's Mimi. She like, we're on like a personal basis. She knows everything about my life, and she always hooks me up with like the best stuff. And to this day, like I got this jacket brought to her and she was like, oh no. And just like did like totally like fixed it up for me, made it perfect. And now it's like my lucky suit jacket that like, if I ever have to go into a big meeting, like this is the one I'm wearing, even though, right, like, yeah, it was $150 when I bought it, but $150 when I bought it to me felt literally like 5 paychecks in one. So that was one splurge. And then the second splurge I did was on a pair of shoes. So one thing that I've noticed in my workplace is that people like always, they usually like for the guys tend to look down to up. But for me, whenever they do that, they then always go back down because they're like, oh, like as they make their way up, they're like, oh, boobs. And then they go back down. They're like, wait, what? And that's just like, I live in the South, right? So I am definitely very outside of the norm for a lot of people around here. And so for me, I wanted them to see when they went back down to those shoes that these were really nice shoes. And so I splurged on a really nice pair of shoes. I didn't wear to work every day, but when I knew I had to walk into a meeting or be around a managing director or present something, the jacket and the shoes would just seal the deal, no matter what button down or slacks I was wearing. So that was huge for me. And when it comes to shopping, I definitely have a little bit more of a bigger form. So for me, I've always struggled with the fact, so like I'm 5'7", but my legs are not like, my torso is longer than my legs. So like to find like the right waistband and the right height of pants has always been a struggle for me. So finding that tailor and someone to help you out is huge. And so I actually do a lot of my shopping at Hager. And even though like now I'm making money and have saved a lot of money, I actually still shop there because I don't think it's really worth my time to go and like splurge a ridiculous amount of money when in reality, I personally cannot pick out anyone on the floor that's wearing anything more expensive or less expensive than me, unless it has a Peter Millar logo on it. So from that like standpoint, I've definitely shopped at Hager a lot. I've shopped at Brooks Brothers a lot and gotten a lot of my measurements done at Brooks Brothers, RIP there. But that's sort of where I've been. And I would say that I totally agree with Mira, once you find that spot, just keep tapping into it once it has a sale. Anytime you see a sale and you have some cash on the side and you're like, I know these are going to fit, these are going to last for X, Y, and Z, just tap into it. If you have the means, because now like I look at my wardrobe and I don't need to buy a button down or a pair of pants for at least the next 10 years. And the only reason why is purely because I'm sure like after all the washing I do in the next 10 years, like these pants will, or these shirts will just like disintegrate. But other than that, I would say like just get a good set of like 5 pairs of pants and like 10 shirts, and those you can literally just rotate those. And that's just my bread and butter.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, so in our last 5 or 6 minutes, I got a few questions in from students that I'm going to pose to just individual panelists so we can hear perspectives on these different questions. The first question is, you've all emphasized getting comfortable around people you work with. Have any of you experienced a firm change, and how did you navigate that new culture? And I'm going to pose that to Maria. I know you mentioned you interned at one place and you're now going into Macy's. How have you kind of navigated the cultural differences and style implications of that between firms?
Yeah, it's definitely been very different. I think that so generally when I was going into Macy's, which I first saw at like O4U, and they actually had a whole panel thing where they were talking about like what they do for Pride and also how they do Pride all year long and stuff like that. And I think the biggest change for me was that I went from a company like Geico that does not emphasize like diversity, inclusion, and like pride and like all of that stuff as much as I wanted them to, and then to like a company like Macy's. So I really would say that it like really changes like the company culture. Like for me, that was like really, really important to see like other people that like kind of looked a little bit more like me up when they were talking about the industry and everything. But I would say I honestly just, when I went to my Geico internship, I walked out of that internship like knowing that I did not like a lot of the things about it, but that I learned a lot. And then I always say that like, even if you don't like something, you can learn so much more about what you don't like and then figure it out for the next time. So then because of that, then I was kind of able to like know what I was looking for in Macy's. So like even if you have like an internship experience that is like not amazing, that's totally okay. And then just then like reflect a little bit and be like, so what do I want next? What am I looking for? And try and find that.
That's super helpful. And then MJ, this next question is for you, just because you've described sometimes wearing suits and sometimes wearing more feminine, flowy apparel. But this question from Chloe is, could you speak a little bit to gender presentation at work? Is it harder to present as femme or butch? And do you feel that your gender expression affects how seriously coworkers take you?
I definitely think, at least in my experience, it's a little bit more difficult when you're assigned male to present in a more feminine way, just because of, you know, the sexism that already exists in corporate spaces. I think when I started my job, there was like an associate who told me that, you know, men always wear collared shirts here, and it was a Friday and I had not worn a collared shirt. I noticed that, you know, some of the women on the floor tended to dress a little bit more casually on casual Fridays than the men did, because they were always in polos or collared shirts. And I think his advice was framed in a helpful way, in the sense that, oh, we want to make sure that, you know, your ideas stand without people discounting you for looking a certain way, right? But I feel like, you know, when I present normatively, if I'm wearing like a button down and I just like haven't shaved in like a day because, you know, unbelievable as it may be, there's like the ghost of facial hair does appear on my face when I don't shave. But like, I don't sort of get that sort of feedback where like, oh, you should like, you know, smarten up a little bit or like tidy up a little bit. But when I present a little bit more feminine, they're like, oh, why don't you bush it up a little, right? And it's kind of difficult because like girly clothes are not just what I wear. It's like how I like to be seen by the world in. And I don't really have like a super great answer about how to navigate that better, right? Because I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, very fair. It's not an easy question to tackle.
Yeah.
The next question I have, I'm going to pose to Britt. Britt, you and I have kind of a shared experience, which is that, you know, we often shop for clothing that's probably labeled for men. This question is, have you ever felt discriminated against or felt uncomfortable shopping in a certain store or aisle? And how did you tackle it?
Yeah, that has definitely happened to me before. And I've done a lot of reflecting the last year, as now I've been more responsible in helping new analysts jump onto our platform. And I've noticed, and I've recently noticed that not everyone has the same, I guess, like New Yorker oomph that I have, I would say, like in the sense of either move out of my way or I'll move you out of the way for me. And so that's very much right. Like growing up in New York, and then I was a lacrosse goalie, right? So like my confidence is probably through the roof more than it really should be. And so that has actually caused me to have the ability to defend myself and feel like I have to defend myself and not feel shocked. But I have stood there and watched other people, and this actually happened to me before COVID. And so I'll just relay this story. Hopefully, I mean, Rachel, just cut me off if I'm like, keep going. But basically, I was at a store in a mall and before COVID. So this is like in the fall. And there was another individual, I don't know their pronouns, I didn't even know them, who was shopping. And they basically were like a skinnier version of me. But I think due to that fact, it's a little bit more feminine than I necessarily did. And someone came over and said, you know, ma'am, there are probably better clothes that will fit you over in that section. And they kind of just were like, oh no, like I'd like to try something on like this. Like, could you help me with this and that? And they were like, ma'am, we think like you should go try the other section. And I looked at the dude and I was like, hey, where's your manager? And the guy was like, what? I was like, yeah, no, seriously, bring your manager over here. If they want to shop in this section, they can shop in this section. And it's your job to help them find the clothes that are going to fit them in this section. And if you don't have those clothes, then you should tell them and then they can go to another store. But I think it's going to be really bad if I tell your manager that you don't know how to assist customers, because isn't that your job? And this dude was he just like literally could not look any other way. I mean, it was just like, I was speaking loudly. I made sure everyone in the store was hearing me. The other individual was just giving me like thankful eyes. And I was like, listen, do you need help? I don't work here, but I have shopped in the store before. I can help you, or I'm going to this next spot if you want to come along, or I can show you some other places to go. And then just, you know, told them, and they were just like profusely thankful and couldn't believe it. The manager, because I caused such a ruckus, did come out, did give both of us a gift card. I have never shopped there again. But right, like now that I've going back to like the analyst I was just talking about, I've noticed that like the confidence that I have is very special, and it's not innate in everyone, and it has just grown through my experiences. And so I would say that like if you're not someone who's similar like me, that has the confidence to stand up to any manager or any employee that's going to not treat you well, that's also okay. It's okay to walk away and handle the issue your own way, but it's also okay too to find allies, whether it be someone who's like you or who's not like you, to also help you and say, no, that's wrong. Because I don't think I've always done that my entire life, but I do think that now that I'm older and I've had experiences like that, it hurts, right? I'm also not gonna lie that it doesn't hurt, right? Like you just feel like you want to belong, you have the money to pay for it. So like, why are you all up in my grill? Why can't I just be me? And it's the unfortunate truth of the world, right? That there are just some places that don't want to allow you to flourish. And to be honest, for those individuals or those places, like good riddance, you don't need them. Just keep being you, and find those allies and find those places that are going to be for you. And unfortunately, it's going to be a trial and error, right? But do know that like there are people out there that are going through the same stuff or similar, and you just got to find your right spot. And unfortunately, it will happen. But trust me, you're definitely gonna be stronger than just that one incident.
Wow, yeah, thank you for sharing that story. Also, it's very powerful. Really helpful perspective. The last question I've gotten that I'll use to kind of close out this panel, I'll pose to you, Kyle, since you've sort of talked about the evolution of your style over time. The question is, as LGBTQ people, we spend a lot of our formative time covering, and part of that is style. Once we feel free to develop our own style and not cover, it can be kind of overwhelming to try to develop our own. How do we find our own style in that type of world?
Ooh, let me think. Well, first of all, I think honestly, I don't have my own style yet. I also sort of, in my approach to fashion, and like very much so, like one day I'll feel super like butch and like wear whatever, and then the other day I'm really gonna like challenge how I like want to share myself. And I'm just all over the place in terms of that. There's no consistent. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a coherent thing about my fashion besides the fact that it is all mine. And so I think one way to just think about it is that you can trial and error, you can test whatever you want to wear. If you wear it one day and you like it, another day you're not in the mood for that, but you want to come back to it later, like it's part of your fashion, and like you will just sort of over time amass a collection of things that represent you holistically. And so I'd say, like, I don't know, that's sort of how I believe personally done it, is that I don't have a consistent fashion. I change a lot. I sometimes follow trends, sometimes I don't. So I think the point of us as LGBTQ people learning and sort of getting that confidence, I'd say use that confidence for yourself in building that holistic collection, but also use that confidence sort of similar to what Britt was just saying, which was a super inspiring story. Use it to also help others, to press the boundaries, to use that confidence to go against norms that might not make other people feel comfortable and accepted. That's sort of what I try to do sometimes when I feel like I have that level of confidence in certain moments. Other times I don't have that confidence. But I'd say over time you will build it up, and you should use it not only for yourself but also for others and for our broader community.
Sorry, my video cut out for a second. That was a really helpful answer. Thank you so much. With that, I will wrap up this panel and we'll release you all to head to keynote 4. But thank you all so much for talking a little bit about your style today and presenting authentically in the workplace.
Thanks everyone.